Alright students, to finish up our coding and computer programming unit as a summative task, we are going to make a creative Photoshop file. And that's a visual representation of your growth curve. So you're going to include that title, you're going to include your name, and make sure you have a lot of things that you learned or realized as you worked on this unit. So let's take a look at some of those that we're going to do. So as an example, I have created a title, which is learning how to code. You could just as easily create a title with the horizontal type tool. Pull and drag out a box roughly where you want it and start typing. Let's change the color to something dark, maybe a maroon, dark red, and learning about code might be what I have as my title. And there's a little plus sign that happens in this bottom right corner if your text goes beyond the workable space. So just stretch that out and you'll see it appear. So I'm happy with that. Use my move tool, click somewhere on one of those letter pixels and move it into the space that I want it to. Lastly, in order to create these lines, I used the line tool. And that's nested in the rectangle tool box. So create a line, choose the color that you'd like to work with. Let's say it's just going to be black. Change the weight, and you can start drawing your amazing line out here. Another thing that you're going to need to know, if I just zoom in on these text boxes, an example that I had was, oh, you can drag out blocks to make a character move. Or here's another thing that I learned. Say, how do I make something do a task for as many times as I'd like? Well, that's a repeat block. And I can make something do another thing only if there's a condition that is met. That's an if-then statement. So those are all important things to coding, and I've included them in my learning curve, my growth curve. I've also included little images, PNGs of characters that I used in the game that I was making, and I can also use the custom shape tool to create the backgrounds for my text boxes. So instead of a shape of these funny faces that I used, I can choose maybe a banner shape. Let's use that one. And as a color, maybe I'll do a color white. I can make a white banner behind my text. That shape 19 is above that text, so I've got to bring it down below where I have my text. And above where I have that other little word bubble. There it is. So using the custom shape tool, the horizontal type tool where you click and drag out a box, and the line tool, you can create a really creative way to show all the things that you've learned in this class, in the coding unit. Next, you're going to prepare a script or a small speech to say out loud to the class. So I'd like you to write down the things that you would like to share about your learning experiences in this unit of coding. For example, what was a breakthrough moment for you? Or what could you just not get to work? There's a lot of ways that I failed when I was working, and I can't tell you how much I learned during that time. It was excellent. So the more I failed, the better I learned. It was very good. My last question that I would recommend to answer is, what was I most proud of about my game? Or maybe even about your learning process. Maybe you were most proud of your perseverance, and that's a really important thing. So when you're done those things, creating your growth curve, preparing a script, getting ready to talk to the class, I'd like you to leave a link to your game or interactive creation on our class blog. And those will those will be available to all of us, and we'll spend a little bit of time playing your game and give you feedback on that. So how do you know you're successful? What are the criteria for that? Well, you might not have finished your game, but you might have worked consistently on it, which is a very good thing. Another way that you'll know that you were successful in this is that you learned a lot. Another way that you can tell that you were successful is that you might have failed, but you persevered, worked around those challenges, or learned how to complete some of those tasks that you failed at. And lastly, I was clear in my communication. That's an important thing, both in the small speech that you present to us, and in your game, and in the instructions for your game, but also the visual information given to us on your growth curve. You were clear in your communication. That's really important. So that's all, and I hope you guys create a very cool learning how to code growth curve, and you can get started now.